Anemone sees the return of Daniel Day-Lewis after nearly a decade of being absent from Hollywood, but he returns in his son's directorial debut. If you haven't already and you like this kind of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on push notifications, but let's get into today's review. Ronan Day-Lewis, Daniel Day-Lewis' son, directs this movie and also co-wrote it with his father. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, this movie was not great. So the movie follows these two estranged brothers that eventually meet back up, and one of them tries to convince the other to come back home and leave their current condition, while also reliving some pretty bad past traumas. Getting the good stuff out of the way, I think Daniel Day-Lewis and Sean Bean put in fantastic performances, mainly Daniel Day-Lewis. I mean, he really does give one of the better performances of the year. Unfortunately, it's in a pretty not that good movie. Now, it's not the worst movie of the year, but it's definitely down there. I really just didn't have that great of a time with it. If there's one thing that I can say in light of this movie, it's that Ronan Day-Lewis definitely does have a sense of vision when it comes to framing a shot and cinematography, because this movie is genuinely very pretty. The shots are compelling. I mean, it has really good framing. It's a good looking movie. But what good is a pretty movie when there's nothing else backing it up for being something worth watching? I've never been one to call people out for being a nepo baby. I think that a lot of nepo babies do a lot of great work in their field. But it definitely is clear to see that Ronan Day-Lewis had a lot of support and a lot of people backing him up to be able to even get this movie made, because he has a lot of famous people in his life. But mainly the big one, Daniel Day-Lewis, is his father, and he co-wrote this movie, like I said, with his father, and the script is very, very surface level. I can appreciate what the story was trying to do. The idea of reliving past traumas and reconnecting with an estranged relative, that can be super challenging, and it can be something that is really hard to grasp and comprehend. But oh my gosh, this movie is so painfully slow. It does not go anywhere. The first 30 minutes of this movie, there's absolutely no dialogue, which I don't mind. I think that a movie can be a masterpiece without any dialogue. But the fact that this movie opens up with basically no dialogue, it's just a lot of walking through the forest and a lot of just overly long shots of the same thing, and it's just, one character will walk off a screen and then we sit there and just watch the forest for another additional 20 seconds. It's like, what are we doing here? What does this add to the movie? Except for what I can only imagine is just being something that's uneasy, but it really just doesn't add to that vibe. And the movie I thought was going to be a psychological thriller, but there really wasn't anything tense about it. There was no tension to be made. The only bit of tenseness in this movie were some of the scenes with Daniel Day-Lewis, in which he just absolutely knocked it out of the park with his performances. And there's a particular scene where I feel like Daniel Day-Lewis is one of the only people in the world that can make a scene talking about shitting on someone's face really interesting. But the thing about that is that there's so many scenes in this movie that don't connect, and there isn't any reason for any of the scenes in this movie. There are so many experimental ideas going on, but Ronan has such a hard time just picking one and sticking with it. I don't mind a movie that can, step out of the comfort zone and deal with a lot of different ideas at once, but the thing is you need to make sure that you're writing a script that can make all of those or most of those ideas just a little bit interesting. But the unfortunate part about this script is that none of it, absolutely none of it, is interesting. The only part that I think would be a little bit interesting is when we get to around the third act, when we're finally getting a piece of what has gone so horribly wrong in these two gentlemen's lives. And it's weird that none of that was said earlier in the movie. And there's nothing wrong with waiting and getting that information near the end of the movie, but like I said, you need to have that additional stuff added near the beginning of the movie to warrant having it show up later in the movie. We should have gotten build up as to what has gone on in these gentlemen's lives. And there's only one scene that I think that they were this is what's gonna, allude to that idea near the end of the film. but the writing tries to be sly and creative, which distracts from what is going on. The movie opens up with drawings that actually takes us through the entire plot if you pay attention to it, but you kind of forget that near the end of the movie, and the beginning was kind of just there for no particular reason. I like the idea of how a father has a lot of impact on their child, and the movie, I think, has that idea. I think it wants to be compelling, but the sad part about it is that none of it is compelling. And it has really, really, really good ideas, but doesn't follow through on any of them. So yeah, I mean, the good of this movie is Daniel Day-Lewis's performance, Sean Bean's performance. The cinematography is really nice, and Ronan Day-Lewis obviously has an eye for the artistic side of filmmaking. But as far as making a compelling story that will sit with me more than a day for a good reason, rather than being like, man, I really wish I didn't waste my time watching this movie. It really was disappointing. I had seen a lot of, negative reviews for it, but I really tried to, ignore those and just go see it for myself, and I did, but it was so painfully boring. It was just not a good time. Even Daniel Day-Lewis's fantastic performance can't save this kind of movie from being anything more than what it is, a disappointment. There's a joke that people say about, things that are drawn out, and that is that it could have just been an email. This movie could have just been an email. Thank you for sticking around to the end of this review. If you've seen my clip that I posted on my YouTube talking about what I've been up to, I've just gotten engaged, and, I have this new studio, and I've been doing so much work here. That's why I haven't been posting on YouTube at all. I just didn't have the time for it, and it's been so busy around here making sure that I can just rebuild, my channel and be more consistent with you and getting more videos out for you. I didn't want to post garbage. I want to be able to post good stuff for you. So I'm sorry that there was a little bit of a break there, but I'm starting to build this back up and getting videos out to you. So thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video and supporting me throughout all of my, life changes and channel changes. I really appreciate you, and I love every single one of you, and I hope that you continue to watch my videos and that I can be your movie guy. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on push notifications. But that does bring it to the end of today's video. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of it. I will see you in the next one. But remember, your movie moment is right around the corner. See you in the next video.